Well, welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video, and today is our pricing and completed sales video that we do every week, where we look on eBay at some of the most notable CGC 9.8 completed sales and prices. And one of the things I preach a lot on this channel is more knowledge on the current prices and more knowledge about the prices on all the issues and CGC 9.8 issues that you might want. The more you're not likely going to overpay, basically. So, more knowledge, the better. So every week we do one of these videos where we look on eBay at those completed sales. And last week there was a lot of great key issues that sold. And, a couple things that happened. An issue I missed out on. There was kind of an anomaly, too, like a high price for an issue that usually goes for a lot lower. And a huge key that sold in an auction too. So I always like to see these because it's kind of, a rock bottom price of a key that's hard to find, and we'll get into all that. So all the prices are in US dollars, and all the books are CGC 9.8 Blue Label books. And I'll have a list in the description below of all the books and the prices, so you can kind of follow along if you wanted. Okay, first book is a Sandman #1. Now, one thing to mention on this book, it was in a new case, CGC 9.8, but it was in Canada, the auction. So, in general, that's going to make the market probably a little bit smaller for a book because it's located in Canada, and a lot of people from the US don't really want to bring a book over the border kind of deal when they could get, a similar book for a similar price in the US if they just waited a little bit. So, Sandman #1, nonetheless, went for $416 in an auction in a CGC 9.8, and that's a really good price. I've seen this go over for $500 before, anywhere from like $500 to $550. I think I saw it sneak under $500. So, $416 in an auction is, I think, a really, really good price for a Sandman #1. First, Morpheus. Next book here is a book I missed out on, unfortunately. This is kind of a book, sort of in the last week or two here, I kind of am drilling down and, I kind of realized I really want this book. So, an Amazing Spider-Man #607. It's a classic J. Scott Campbell black cat cover, like a really sexy, hot black cat cover. And it's 606 and 607 are kind of the two original J. Scott Campbell black cat covers. 607 for me being the coolest one, and it does usually sell, I think, for a little bit more. But this book, in an auction, I wanted to bid on this book, and I ended up setting my alarm for about 15 minutes before. My alarm goes off 15 minutes before. Okay, I'm ready. I ended up getting distracted and forgot to put in a bid. This one sold for $134.72. I kind of planned to bid about $155. So I think I would have won this book. And definitely want to check out, definitely Google this book if you're into Black Cat and J. Scott Campbell covers, like lady covers, because he does really good lady covers. Amazing Spider-Man 607. Yeah, so I'm still hunting for this book, and I really want to grab it. One sold for $134.72. Next book, Amazing Spider-Man 410, which is Web of Carnage Part 2. Kind of a really cool mid-90s Bagley Carnage cover. And this is a really good price for this book because I've seen it sell for about $100 before. Went for $48.57 in a auction. So yeah, another kind of good example of a book where you could buy it for $100 pretty quick, maybe about $100. But if you wait for an auction and you're patient, you don't see these like all the time pop up in an auction. But if you do, $48.57. So about half price for whereas most of the retail prices are like $110, $120, maybe even more for that book. A kind of cool book here, more of an unknown, I think, book. Most people might not know this. Incredible Hulk #106 from year 2000. It's the beginning of World War Hulk. Cool cover, and in the CGC 9.8, I thought it was a pretty cool buy. Went for $49 in a year 2000 book that was. Incredible Hulk 106. World War Hulk begins. Spectacular Spider-Man #1 in CGC 9.8. You see these every now and then, and it's a 1976 book, so, really old book in the CGC 9.8, which is kind of cool. One sold for $249.95. Spectacular Spider-Man #1. There's no real, first appearance in it or anything. It's like a tarantula appearance, but still a real old book, and CGC 9.8 white pages for $2.50, not bad. An Immortal Hulk #1, a book that I have, that classic first print Alex Ross cover, and two of these had sold, one for $115 and another for $134.99. And yeah, these, I sort of was thinking that this is somewhat of a candidate to try and pick up this book for about like $70, $75, $80 in an auction, and then sell it for $134.99. Like, you know, maybe you're kind of small time in it and you don't have maybe the biggest budget ever. I think this is a really good book. It's popular. There's a lot out there. And if you're diligent looking for auctions and trying to get deals for about like 70, 80 bucks, and then you could sell one every now and then. I see one sell for kind of like $129.99, $120. So, you know, you can make kind of 50, 60 bucks pretty quick. Kind of flipping these maybe. Next book is a book that I always see and kind of tempted to always buy. It's really nostalgic. It's a WildC.A.T.S #1. Jim Lee, WildC.A.T.S, Image Comics, early 90s. And one of these sold for $59 in kind of the blue label. And I think you could get that for cheaper if you waited on an auction. I'm pretty sure this was a buy it now. Probably get that under $50. Next book, a popular modern key issue, is Young Avengers #1. One of these sold for $250. And you see this book sell for $250 quite often. I think, you know, if you can grab it for closer to $200, I think it's a really good buy for kind of a modern book. Lots of first appearances in there, and I think with how good all these Avengers movies have done with Disney and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you never know, like, they could come out with a Young Avengers movie, kind of sticking with the Avengers theme. Another book here is a pretty good example of a range of prices for certain key issues, but Preacher #1 in a new case sold, looking pretty good, sold for $239. Now, last week's video, we had a Preacher in an auction sell for $178. So that's a really good example of, like, you know, if you want a book now, you can pay $240 for it, but if you wait, it's probably about $175. And Preacher #1, that happened, you know, exactly. So, yeah, I think $239 probably a little bit too much for that. I think $200 is kind of a fair price, whereas $178 is kind of getting to the lower end of being a really good deal kind of thing. And yeah, most of the time in auctions, that's how you're gonna get the deals, when you search for auctions and wait for auctions and you're patient for auctions. Every now and then, not all the time, you know, sometimes in auctions there's a bidding war starts and it ends up going for full price basically, so you never know. But yeah, it gives you a good idea, that Preacher one, of some of the range. Teen Titans 12, this was pretty surprising to see this book. Brought mine out here. Really happy to have a first full appearance of the Batman Who Laughs. Really cool comic too, if you read it. Yeah, he kind of mind controls the Riddler and uses the Riddler to kind of do his evil deeds, the Batman Who Laughs. And one sold last week for $437.99. And yeah, that's quite, you know, a hefty price. Most of the time I see these go for $350. I even saw one go for like $260, $255, I think it even was. So I was hoping this might cool off toward a $250-ish level, because it is a book that, yeah, I have one of the CGC 9.8. I have like 4 raw copies, 2 of it, that are in pretty nice shape as well. But kind of would want to grab another one, to be honest. I just love the Batman Who Laughs. So, but would look to get it under $300 kind of at this point, where I already have one, so I want to be really picky on the next one I get as far as price. Even though I got a really good deal on this. I bought this before this issue blew up, basically. For about, yeah, a little over $200, I believe it was, American. But $437.99 last week. Pretty expensive. I would look to get that near $350 more so. Next book is, you know, I saw this book and I instantly almost, you know, kind of want it. It's House of X #1, the Kevin Eastman Wolverine variant. So I really like Kevin Eastman's style of art. Very, like, it's a specific style, it's totally his work, very individualistic kind of thing. But Yeah, so he did, and he's the creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that's where I'm more familiar with him from. But this House of X #1 Kevin Eastman Wolverine variant looked really cool. I've seen it before, and yeah, it just looked really cool in the CGC 9.8 case and everything. And the more I saw it, the more I liked it. One sold for $99.99, which I think is probably near more of a full price. I think if you wait in an auction, you could probably get this for like 60 or 70. So I honestly want to be on the lookout for this one, to be honest. Really cool Kevin Eastman Wolverine cover. Silver Surfer 44, a book I have, and a book I've kind of recommended to buy now because, kind of after all the Infinity Gauntlets were in all the Avengers movies and stuff, it's kind of teetering down and teetering off this issue in price. One went last week for $154.50. First appearance of the Infinity Gauntlet. That's about how much I paid for my second one. And my first one I bought during Avengers Endgame, and it was $230 in an auction. Or like $225, $230 or something like that. So this book has come off since, all those Avengers movies. And I actually think, there's could be a little bit of a lull. And I think getting it around $150, first appearance of the Infinity Gauntlet, Silver Surfer 44, I think is a good price for $150. Next book, Amazing Spider-Man 361, first appearance of Carnage. In a direct edition, so there's kind of the direct and the newsstand editions. They look the same. Newsstand just has the UPC code in the bottom corner and is a little bit more rare. Usually newsstands are about 20% of the print run originally, so more rare than newsstand. But this was a direct edition, and it wasn't like perfectly centered or anything, but it went for $370.49. And I always say, yeah, these kind of go from like $350 to $400. The newsstands sometimes a little over $400, maybe even going to $450 if it's like looks really, really good. But yeah, this one, like $370.49. There's a lot of first appearances of the Carnage, so I always recommend to be patient and picky on it. Like get a really nicely centered one, and usually you can grab a direct version for closer to $350. But still, $370.49 I would say is like a fair price for that book, and I would look to get it a little more centered than this one was, though. Next book, Amazing Spider-Man #298, and one that I have, a book that I really love from being really nostalgic for me as a kid. It was a book that I bought when I was younger and had a copy, so kind of Amazing Spider-Man 300 was out of my price range back then, so I was lucky to have a $298 when I was really young. But two of them sold last week, too. And really interesting. One sold for $289.95, which is a fair price for this book. I've seen them go for like $270, $280, $290. So fair price. And then another one went for $395. So about $100 more. Now, looking at this $395 one, it was perfect. Perfectly centered. Absolutely perfect. Like, probably the best $298 I've ever seen in a CGC 9.8. No pages sticking out the side, perfectly centered down the spine. Colors looked amazing. So that's, a lot of times you got to keep that in mind when you're looking at CGC 9.8 books. There's slight differences in CGC 9.8 books, and some of these prices, we go through every week. I should probably mention this more, to be honest, that, because Amazing Spider-Man 298, if it's perfectly centered and looks amazing and just is basically looks like a 10, but for some reason isn't a 10, but eye appeal looks like a 10. It could go for $395, which one did this last week, whereas normally when they usually go for $289.95. And the $289.95 one I looked at wasn't perfectly centered on the spine, and I think had a little bit of pages popping out at the top a little bit. So, you definitely always have to look at these 9.8s and still gauge how the color is and the slight differences. And I've made a video on this before, but should probably mention it more. Because, yeah, each comic book is kind of an individual one. So, next book is a very popular key as well, Batman the Killing Joke. And one of these sold for $195 last week. $195, somewhat elevated. I'd say that's near the higher end for a Killing Joke. You see him go for like $175. Maybe with the Joker movie just doing really well, I think. Maybe $195 is pretty decent, and I mean it's only $20 more than $175, so I would say that's probably about a fair price for Killing Joke. this one was in a new case too, with really good pictures. So, okay, yeah. Next book is one I haven't seen lately at all sell in an auction. Every now and then you see a buy it now of one of these sell, but it's a huge key. So yeah, NYX number 3, first appearance of X-23, Laura Kinney. So probably the biggest key after the year 2000 that you can buy. And in the CGC 9.8 in an auction, so you always love to see these mega keys kind of go in a normal auction because it's like a really fair gauge of the fair market value right now. It went for $775, and I've seen. I thought these were going more for like $800 to $850 was kind of my original impression. So yeah, if you wait for an auction, maybe you get it for like $50 to $75 cheaper possibly. But yeah, good to know, a fair market value for NYX number 3, first X-23, $775 basically. Next book is Dark Knight's Batman Who Laughs, the origin issue. So it's kind of the one-off with it's the Jason Fabic cover, and it's the origin of the Batman Who Laughs. So yeah, if you're kind of priced out of this one, which is understandable, getting kind of near that 350 to 400 level in the CGC 9.8. This book's really good. It's Dark Knight's one-off, Batman Who Laughs, origin of the Batman Who Laughs. It's one went for $75 in the CGC 9.8, so that's a pretty good price. Yeah, I think maybe if you waited for an auction, you get it for like $60, but yeah, not bad price. Saw a Spawn Batman crossover sell. One sold for, it was $133, and yeah, if you're patient on that one too, I've seen it go for less, maybe even less than 100 possibly in the sort of 90s. But $133 I would say is a fair price. There's definitely more online right now that are like priced for $179.99, and people trying to get closer to 200. So yeah, Spawn Batman $133 I think is a decent deal. And a last book from the list this week. It's Spawn number 300, and just saw this because it's a really new book. Obviously, Spawn number 300, and this one is the Amazing Spider-Man 300 homage, the first print. So kind of just the classic first print homage, Spawn number 300. In an auction too, went for $57. And that's, yeah, you see a lot of sort of new books like this that are kind of semi-keys go from like $50 to $60 in the CGC 9.8. So yeah, Spawn 300, if you want that ASM 300 classic homage in the first print, $57 is I think a price you should kind of look to pay. Alright, that's the list for this week. Yeah, and I kind of, setting my alarm for that Amazing Spider-Man number 607 and then forgetting to bid on it like 10 minutes later was a bummer, because I definitely drilled down in my mind that I want that issue, but like the cheapest one beyond that online is like, I think it's $189, but the shipping to Canada is ridiculous for that, so I can't even get that. So I'll probably have to wait for another auction on that one. But if you haven't already, I'd invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. And when you subscribe, hit the bell and get all our latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter too. All the links are in the description below for all that. But ask me, if you got any questions, whatever it might be. You can, message me on more Instagram, more active on Instagram lately. So message me on there if you do have any questions. But yeah, hey, the best thing, I always love to do this video once a week because you kind of stay in the know of some of these prices of all the issues that you really want. And, after doing these for maybe 4 or 5 months on this channel so far, I got a really good idea of all the prices in my head for all the issues that I would want. We kind of focus on those 80s and 90s to modern CGC 9.8s are kind of in our price range, for our channel here. So, yeah, really helpful to just have more information and be in the knowledge of all the prices. You're not going to overpay like that. So, thank you very much for watching today. I really appreciate all the support, all the comments and everything. I'll see you on the next video.